Well, good afternoon, viewers. Today we have a 1999 CLK320, I should say, and it's here for a number of problems, but the major complaint, according to the customer, is that 4,800 kilometers the engine cuts out. It seems to crank slightly longer than normal when it starts too. Second restart was fine, so maybe we're going to have to check residual fuel pressure or something. Now, he's had a number of places, or a couple places, working on this thing last year, and apparently the crank sensor has been replaced. Now, he described it to me as we'd pull out to pass somebody, put into passing gear, it would hit 4,800 RPM on the tack, and then it would just shut off. Now, he said you can do it sitting still. Well, I said in neutral or park, it would likely go into safety fuel cutoff at around 4,000 RPM. About 4,400 RPM in neutral and park, but it shouldn't do that when you're driving it. So we're going to take it for a road test, see how it acts on the highway, and put it in passing gear and see if it's actually going to safety fuel cutoff. No check engine light, service reminder message. So let's take it for a road test. Well, it does exactly what he said. At 4,800 RPM, the check engine light comes on and the engine stalls. So I'm going to try it again. This time recording, wait for this transport truck to go by. Get some distance on us. And it actually quit. Check engine light came on. Actually stalled, dead throttle. No throttle response, although the tack still shows 1,000 RPM. Pull over to the side of the road here. Throttle pedal is dead, and the engine has literally shut off. Now on these cars you have to turn the key off. Let's put it in park and restart it. Well, let's go back and see what code it's generated, because obviously the check engine light has come on, so it's generated some kind of code. If you keep it under 4,800 RPM, it won't do it. Exactly like he said. Whoops, wrong signal light lever. Cruise control lever. So this is a new vehicle record, as I've never worked on this vehicle before, and it is a 99 VIN X. See for Lotto ID. CL320. So according to the VIN number, it's a 208 CLK. WDBL is the first 4 digits of the VIN. And 5, 6, and 7 J65, 47 J65, 3.2, and it has 133,000. I got it running. Let's check the engine control computer for fault codes. Why is it telling me that? Engine compartment in the fuse box. Oh, not the regular OBD2 connector. So in this model year, they had a proprietary Mercedes-Benz connector under the right-hand fuse panel cover. So you need this adapter, and this adapter and the S20 key, according to the Snap-on information, to be able to scan this thing. There's power to it, it's communicating, so let's scan it. So we're back connected to the vehicle. Let's see what comes up. Let's go for codes. Oxygen sensor, heating element, oxygen sensor, crankshaft position sensor. Well, that's likely what's happening. It's losing the crank signal. Let's see if there's any freeze frame data. Probably not. It's interesting, it uses a proprietary diagnostic connector, but it uses OBD2 compliant diagnostic fault code strategies. Oh well. Let's write this down. P0161, 156, and 335. The 335 is the one I'm concerned about. According to him, the crankshaft position sensor has already been replaced. I wonder if we got end play on the crankshaft or something like that, and we're losing the signal under a heavy acceleration, high RPM. Let's see what's common to cause this. So I've ID'd the vehicle in Identifix, and I did a keyword search for that P0335 crankshaft sensor, and it's common for the crankshaft sensor or connector to cause the problem, but nothing other than that. There's only one case on Identifix. No TSBs. So I'm going to put it up in the air and have a look at where this crank sensor lives. And I'm just curious if it's on the back of the flywheel, if there's end play on the crankshaft. Maybe we're going to check that. So that crank sensor lives up on the driver's side top of the bell housing. It's not convenient to get to. So I was just looking at the fault setting criteria here. Basically, it's a loss of the crank signal. Further causes of a fault can be sensor wheel or flywheel damaged, flywheel has radial runout, tooth offset too large, crankshaft position sensor loose, and electrical disturbances due to a damaged cable or loose contact. So I'm going to see if I can check the end play on the crankshaft. So with this little plastic cover removed here, you can see the reluctor on the outside circumference of the flywheel. And I'm putting a bar in behind the crankshaft and prying it back and forth, and it doesn't seem to move much. See if I can get behind there to pry it the other way. I don't see any significant end play. Definitely RPM related. So here's where that crank sensor lives, right down there. Now you can see somebody has spliced in a new harness, looks like a piece of speaker wire, and ran new wires to this crank sensor. Wonder if these are the original wires tucked in here. So the crank sensor's definitely been replaced. Now whether it's OE or not is another question. And here they've spliced the two wires going into the computer here. So at least we know which wires we can scope for the crank signal. I did some research on the Technicians Network and Identifix, and although it seems very common for crank sensors to fail on these things, I couldn't find any conclusive cause other than a failed crank sensor. Different forums suggest that a crank sensor variation relearn is required after replacement. I'm going to check and see if that capability is in the Snap-on scan tool or not. But I'm going to start it and run it and reach down there and wiggle those wires and see if it cuts out. So I'm lab scoping the crank signal at the ECM, and I've got it at a 5 millisecond 100 volt time base. So when I rev it up, you can see the amplitude increases. just paused it now. I notice the amplitude varies between crankshaft revolutions. And I see there's a sync pulse here, but there's another one there. There's another anomaly in there as well. Right there. I don't think that's supposed to be there. That, I believe, is there. But that one there seems odd to me. That seems like the missing tooth, but this pattern here seems odd. I wonder if this had any transmission work done at any time. So we're looking at the flywheel reluctor teeth. I've got a trouble light up here, and I've marked it where it was sitting still. So I'm going to zoom in on this. Try and see if we can see this. I see a little issue already, I think. So I'm going to turn the crankshaft a few revolution part of it. There's a mark, something's touched the flywheel there, but you can notice it's bent right there. That's bent right there. Now how would that get bent? Where's the solid tooth? There's the, okay, there's the wide notch right there. So, go back a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. This is definitely bent right here. I wonder if that creates a second sync pulse at a higher RPM, or because it is a magnetic pulse generator, its amplitude increases with RPM, and it might be scrambling the ECU's memory. Somehow that's gotten bent. Wonder if we should just try bending it back down. What did I say? 11, 12 teeth? So here's the capture on the lab scope. So there's the missing section of teeth. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then 12. So that wide gap creates almost a second sync pulse by the looks of it. You can see it in here. There's 2 spots where the teeth are damaged. So technically it needs a new flywheel. But since it's damaged anyways, let's see if we can bend that back down, because the sensor sits on the top of this. So bending it in would increase the air gap, reducing the signal voltage from it. What do we got to lose? Let's try reshape that flywheel teeth. So I recorded it on my Varus here. Here's the sync pulse. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So there's a couple of damaged teeth in here. That section of the flywheel is further away. So we're going to try and straighten it out. So I'm going to save this recording. So I made a little gauge to measure from the bottom edge of the flywheel to the opening here. So we're going to turn this thing until we see where that damage is. You need a 17 mil Allen socket to turn the crank bolt. There's the damage right there. So let's compare it. I'd say it's up about 1/8 of an inch. Oh yeah. Okay, I'm going to take a pair of channel locks and try and bend that back down. So I put a pair of channel locks in here just like this, and I bent it down. Still a little bit high right there, about 1/16 of an inch right there. Oh, okay, I'm going to do that on the other spot too. So there's the other spot, and it seems pretty good now. Let's have a look at the scope pattern now. That'll tell us whether it's decent. So here's the new pattern. Let's zoom it up. Well, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So we still have just a small anomaly there, but it's definitely better than it was. Let's look at before and after. So here's the current picture, and here's the before picture. So you can see this significant drop in there, and now it looks like that. So I wonder if that was enough to cause an erratic crank signal and cause it to shut down. We're certainly going to go for a road test now and see how it runs. So I thought I'd check to see if there's a functional test for a crankshaft sensor learn. So under functional tests and under adaptions, it has self-adaption of sensor rotor adaption is required for the following. A crankshaft position sensor has been replaced. Increment gear has been replaced. I would imagine they're talking about transmission, or engine has been replaced. So we're going to do this. Ignition on, engine not running, the sensor rotor adaption values will be reset, continue. Corrective programming being initialized. Reset adaption of ring gear and driven plate, increment gear, yes. Continue. And then back. Okay, we're going to take the scan tool with us this time and see how it runs. So, moment of truth. Let's see how this thing accelerates now. Should redline at 6 grand. That's scary fast. Well, that was it. That flywheel. Problem accelerating up to 4,800 RPM now. Now he told me you could test this thing in neutral, but you can't because it goes into safety fuel cutoff at about 4,400 RPM. It just limits at about 4,400 RPM. But that safety fuel cutoff when you're in park or neutral, safety fuel cutoff based on engine RPM. So here's the recording of that road test. You can see that we hit just over 5,500 RPM. 5,500 RPM was basically redlining at 6,000. So we'll call this one fixed, and it remains to be seen how that flywheel got bent. Maybe well, it's hard to say. I don't think the transmission's been out of it, but I'll have to talk with the customer. Thanks for watching.